things like there are things called in-kind contributions. If you mix a private thing, so say you loan yourself $5,000 and you call it an in-kind contribution, well, you've just violated federal election law, right?
So there really is real campaign violations to be had, right? We're just not making this stuff up. There are things.
Yeah, there are real, actual legal violations to be had. The problem is that, as I said a second ago, people aren't going to have the 6-sentence conversation. They're going to have the 2 or the 4-sentence conversation, which amounts to, hey, great, here's the issue, they're terrible. Right? And obviously we then all agree that they're terrible, and then we move on. In which case, you haven't necessarily gained anything from where you started. But I think that the question you're trying to ask is, should we make a big hullabaloo out of it? No, but we should say, we should, when it benefits us as a party, say things like, well, there was this campaign finance violation that our former president had, and they didn't enforce it on time. I said this to Gary Baumgartner in his room yesterday about Katrina. Granted, I was in high school. I really don't remember very much of it. The people that resettled the area did not come to the Rio Grande Valley, but he was complaining about it being politicized. And I was like, you know what? It has been politicized, and essentially, I've been waiting 15 years to say this. Y'all went after W, and Democrats thought it was fine. They thought going after W was just the thing you did.
Right. So, Marshall, real quick, the whole hush money stuff with Trump, that was considered a campaign violation, right? So
if we're being clinical,
yeah,
he committed a campaign finance violation. The next question that follows that is not is he guilty or is he not? The next question that follows that is, okay, he's done this. Why the hell did 99 other people who violated FEC law get notices and tickets during the campaign? Why am I only getting tickets for this shit 2 months after? What makes me extra special? Right? That needs to be the question. And the answer is nothing. Nothing makes you super special.
But
right? So there's obviously a preferential use of the law.
Right. But Marshall, my point is they made a huge deal about that. I mean, he's in court for that. So I don't know why there's a leftist making selective outrage based off what we pick as a violation. If this is actual violation, we should be able to make a big deal out of it and not do so much what Adrian said. He said just move on, maybe put it in the bucket with the cats eating cats and dogs situation. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm just saying it's interesting how everybody picks their own things to be outraged about. Where the hush money stuff was a huge deal. Obviously, it's the only thing that supposedly they got Trump on so far. Everything else is going away. So I don't know. I'm just pointing out kind of the hypocrisy. Do you see that at all, Marshall?
Well, let me.
I'll let you rebuttal what I said there, Adrian, because I know you made that claim. But go ahead,
Yeah. And what I meant by that is this may have some teeth on it, but it's baby teeth right now at this point.
Chag Sameach Yom Tov Shalom Elohim Olam Yom Tov Kippur. OnlyFans movies.
Or they may not even got them cast early ballots for the preferred candidate of their choice. And a lot of them, we know a lot of the places that was hit was Trump country, right? So focus on getting their votes and focus on how you can make their lives better so when the time comes, they can cast their damn votes. Because right now, these people are not thinking about a fucking election. They're thinking about how the hell they got them rebuilding their lives in the wake of losing family members, in the wake of losing every fucking thing that they ever worked for, all because we have an incompetent administration that don't want to do what's necessary. If this was any other election cycle for any other candidate, this would be the end of their candidacy, seeing how they are responding to this goddamn tragedy. If it was anyone else, their candidacy would have been over in October, right? But we're not in just any regular election cycle. We're not. This is hyper partisan to the degree that you wouldn't believe. And we see what the mainstream media does for their preferred candidate, for their preferred faction. They are going to run cover like no other. So they're going to totally overlook the key issues that matter to people as long as their preferred candidate comes out smelling like a bouquet of roses. And so focusing on whether or not this 60 Minutes interview violated campaign finance laws, goddamn, bro. Those people aren't thinking about that shit. Your voters are not thinking about this shit. They're not. And I'm not just saying just totally disregard it as if it doesn't matter, but pick your fights, your battles wisely. This is the last leg. There is no do-overs after this. There isn't. Pick your fight wisely. And right now, honestly, the American people don't give a shit about what the fuck the 60 Minutes interview may have or may not have violated when it comes to campaign finance. Like, they don't. I'm honestly telling you, they don't care. Not saying that, hey, we should just overlook it. But goddamn, pick your battles wisely, man. This is October we're talking about. The mother of all election months. October. When it's done, it's done.
No, I hear you on that. I hear your points. I just wanted to make sure that, that it's clear that the left could complain about campaign violations, but we can't. And I just want to make sure to let people know that we can do the same thing. But you're right. Maybe it's a little past, that time. You know what I mean? We are in October. What are we, like 27 days away? 26? I don't even know what it is at this point. It's just like a ride around the corner. So I hear what you're saying, Adrian, on that one. But Reverend, did you actually even hear the clip? I didn't even know I couldn't hear what you were saying. Did you hear the clip that I did?
Because that crazy woman was going off, and I heard Board. Is this Board cool or is this Marshall?
No, this is Board.
You were trying to ask me something, and I was ready to answer you. Next thing you know, you kicked me. I don't know.
Well, both of you guys were talking. I was trying to get both of your attention, so unfortunately, I had to move you guys down. Yeah. So
you didn't have to move me, truly.
Well, you were talking over me, so you definitely had to be moved. So what do you make of this editing that CBS did? What do you think about that?
I wasn't talking over you, Board.
Well, you were.
I was trying to get you to repeat yourself because I couldn't hear. That's all I was saying. I said, Board, what did you say?
So go on. Let's go on with the conversation.
I'm upset.
All right, man. Yeah, look.
Are you gonna cry?
We know that they do deceptive.
No, I don't cry when I'm upset.
Well, and real quick, I just want to say we know that leftists kick the can down the road until the outcomes of these scandals are revealed. There's so many things that have been to the detriment of Donald Trump's last election. If they were exposed, it would have been a slam dunk. And so they depend on these tactics. We know it. And Matt, we can participate in the same kind of thing. We just can't spend too much time on one thing. I think this is great, you exposing this. We should show more people because the people that are on the fence, that are hearing that they are in the pockets of the Democrats, the media that is, the more exposure to these fence riders, these ass splinters, I think the better. Because it's so obvious to a lot of us, but there are people still listening to us, not seeing the proof, and that's proof right there.
I agree.
Spending too much time can be a waste, and I think Republicans do that, and I think it's instigated by like rhino types to get spiraled up and all that to the detriment of their candidate and the election.
Yeah.
I think there's a medium ground there. So I think we could call it out for what it is, but then move past it, right, pretty quickly. Because Wallace, you're completely right. There is a group out there that's still on the fringe of like what they're going to do. And there's a small percentage. I can't believe there is still people out there, but that's another room for another time. So I do agree. I think if you can get it in front of the people that are still going, okay, is this really happening? Like these kind of things do happen. Yeah, like we'll show you that it does happen. But then we do what Adrian says. It says don't dwell on it. Don't spend all October talking about it. And obviously, I don't think we will. I was just pointing it out, and we'll move on. I mean, it's not a huge deal. I just found it really interesting that Trump could go on trial for a campaign violation, and this one could be a potentially campaign violation. Yep, we're just kind of blowing it off, or at least the other group is in that way. You know what I mean?
How much, like, I understand, like, the whole concern about it, but how much can Trump do about this if he's not in office? We gotta keep our eyes on the fucking prize. I want him to cross the finish line just as much as anyone else do. But if I'm in this goddamn this derby race, I'm not about to worry about fries spilling on the floor. I'm worried about the obstruction and dirt and all that shit on my windshield. I'm worried about that. Focus on what's in front of you right now. The other shit is just minor distraction. And when you cross the finish line, then you can address the fries on the floor. But until you cross that finish line, there's nothing you can fucking do about the fries on the floor. There's nothing you can do.
Are you against
Hold on,
Kamala?
Reverend. Hold on, Reverend. There's nothing he can do about this fucking campaign finance thing if he's not president. And we know that the courts are going to be working in favor a lot of times when it comes to goddamn Democrats. But until he actually gets into that goddamn seat, secure that position, don't dwell on it. Yes, you can call attention to it, but don't dwell on it. Gotta have tunnel vision right now.
Hey, you gotta ask me, Board. You gotta ask me now because I will forget, and somebody will start wind tumbling, and they'll be here forever, and I won't be able to answer your question. What was it that you asked me?
Hey, the Hunter Biden laptop, that would have been a good thing to spend tons of time on. Look what came out after the fact.
How many are voting for Trump simply because they just don't want the Democrats to win and they can't stand Kamala? Because every time I ask somebody why they're voting for Trump, they tell me how bad Kamala
So,
is.
Reverend,
And
our vote is more of your vote is more of an anti-Trump than ours is an anti-Kamala. We actually believe.
No.
Yes.
No.
Oh, you're gonna tell me what we're voting for, or what most of us are probably doing?
Liberty
No,
or
I'm
tyranny?
asking.
You asked the question.
I was asking.
Yeah.
I did. I asked you, but you didn't answer.
I just did.
I asked.
I just said our vote is more of a. I'm saying your vote is more of an anti-Trump. We're saying our.
Where'd you get that? Where'd you get that from, though?
Well, I just know. You guys talk about Trump all day. How much you hate him.
I don't. You haven't heard me talking about.
Have you
Tried to kill him twice. What are you talking about?
Hey, wait, have you been in the other rooms? Come on now, you guys talk about him
Yeah.
all long.
No, but I'm not. I'm not really political. I've been in a few of them, but I'm not active on those.
So here's my
on those
point.
things.
Here's my point, Reverend, is that we actually believe in what Trump's doing. I don't think you guys do with Harris. I think you guys was more of an anti-Trump vote. That's my answer.
You guys. Now, first, explain to you guys. Who is you?
Well, let's
who
see.
you guys?
Opposition. How about we start there?
Okay, so just
You
to
do
have the
look like
country,
Lionel Richie.
half the country then.
Yeah, they're anti-Trump. Half the country. Yep.
Right, because we heard it we heard it after 2020, after the election of 2020. A lot of people who voted for Biden admitted that they didn't want to vote for Biden. They did not want to vote for Trump. They were more anti-Trump than they were pro-Biden, right? And we know that to be a fact because we have people from the left
This
that
guy-
openly
Oh,
because they openly admitted that. So why wouldn't it be the same this cycle around? A lot of people that are voting for Kamala, right, are anti-Trump as hell. Not because they necessarily agree with her policies, because, let's be honest, she doesn't have a solid policy stance on shit. So what else could they be voting for when it comes to Kamala? They only
Lord,
vote
I can see
anti-Trump.
that you. This seems like a pro-Trump room. That's cool, and I like to do more listening to people's opinions. And I probably came in here because I'm following Marshall, and I know he's a longtime Trump supporter. But I wanted to know if he is in fact really pro-Trump, or you just vote for the Republican Party just because you're a registered Republican, and no matter who they ran, you vote for that person. Is that the case? That you just you vote along party lines?
Like a team thing you're talking about, right? You just vote.
No, you just vote. You vote along party lines. There's plenty of people who do that.
See, I'm sorry for interrupting, but I think one of the things a lot of Democrats don't understand is how much our vote for Donald Trump is not just against the Democrat Party, but also we've been trying to reform our party. We've been trying to reform the Republican Party since the Tea
With
Party.
Donald Trump?
I'm sorry?
When I think of Donald Trump, right, I can't think of anybody who is more far apart from Richard Nixon or Ronald Reagan and, people like that.
Well, that's your bias. Ronald Reagan.
You think he's just
not
like him?
a normal politician either. He was an insurgent candidate. He was definitely blocked by his party until he finally won over the American people, or at least the Republic. Well, he did eventually win over the American people, but he won over the Republican Party. But he was an insurgent candidate. Richard Nixon, it doesn't matter. Richard Nixon was definitely an establishment party Republican all through the 1950s and 60s. But if you're making that comparison, I think you're painting with a rather broad brush. And all I'm trying to say
they're forgetting is after
a reform vote. We are reforming our party, and it's been a long.
Oh, he's a reform vote. Okay.
I'm sorry?
Trump is the person that's going to reform the party.
We are reforming our party. We will still be.
That's what I'm saying. With the selection like Trump, he couldn't run anybody else.
To a certain degree, yes. The folks who are Trump people, Reverend, that are willing to do the work. Now, don't get me wrong. There are people in every political group that are unwilling to do the work. This is not a particular criticism at MAGA folks or at folks in the Democratic Party. But there are a lot of people who believe in Donald Trump's message, that are interested in changing the system and are willing to do the hard work that is required to make that change possible. Now, it's going to be slow, and it's bumbling, and it really doesn't look good, and it sticks its bronze foot in its mouth far too damn often for its own fucking good. But that is going to hold to the American public. Essentially, what you're seeing is the remake of the Republican Party platform without it being a platform committee fight. We've already got that done. Now we're arguing over in the party which of those values should take preeminent place, and then we're arguing over what does that priority list mean. Now, again, some of those Trump folks just want to
Project
throw a bomb.
2025. It means Project 2025, no?
I mean, I think if you're being serious, then the answer to that is no. I think if you are taking into account what a lot of voters see of the former president, which is that he can't tell the truth, to say it politely, I understand why there are folks in the Democratic Party and who are independents that look at Donald Trump saying, hey, this is not my deal, and fucking laugh. I'm like, yeah, it wasn't your deal, like you were ahead in the polls by miles, right? So there are people that just don't see it to be truthful claim in the first place. So I think there's that, and I think, to be honest, Rev, folks in my shoes who are moderates and fight back, where we get our wins are not so much in the partisan piece, it's making the organization function better, making it more smooth line, making it have less issues with efficiency, right? Those folks that are then willing to do that work will be the architects of what the Republican Party is going to look like in the next, say, 25 years, right? And that kind of argument doesn't start without the Republicans in the Tea Party and then without Donald Trump and the rest of the country.
So, Marshall, do you see a big R Republican Party or a little R Republican Party? You yourself. Great question.
For me, I would prefer there to be a little R Republican Party. There's a TV show I once watched, and the character said, I'm a Republican. I believe in social programs. I just believe there are way too damn many costing way too damn much. And I think, it's a pithy comment that, really doesn't necessarily mean anything under the surface, but we can all be for those sorts of social lift-ups as long as they're not drags on the economy, right? So, for example, disability insurance, that's a mandatory piece of spending in the United States. That's like $2 trillion. We just have to do it. Food stamps, on the other hand, in the farm budget or in the farm bill, that has to be voted on every year. I'm not suggesting people should smash food stamps because I don't think they should. But like those sorts of things, they get voted on in that order. And so, I think the answer to your question is that you're going to be greatly frustrated for quite a while. You're going to have Republicans you like, and they're going to be Republicans who you put your head in your hands over. But our party is not done figuring out which faction or which amalgamation of factions are going to lead the party completely into the 21st century. We're still fighting.
So you really think there's a future with the demographics of this country changing the way that it is? You really think there's a future, a long future?
Yeah, because I think the demographics argument is like Republicans arguing that illegal immigrants are going to be automatic Democratic voters. It's intellectually lazy. Now, I don't mean you're intellectually lazy, so let me put that up front. But
I wasn't talking about immigrants.
Well, I was going to say
I didn't mean immigrants. Just the base is not growing, right? In fact, the numbers are declining, and I think it has been.
Is this the Republican Party?
She's talking about like where he peaks in terms
The
of like
Republican
overall
Party actually
followers.
grew. He got more memberships and more votes last time around, 75 million of them.
Yeah, and with these walkaway Democrats
wasn't
coming
enough.
to the Republican Party, I think it's important that
Right, it
the
wasn't the
difference
right
between
amount of
big
people
R
in
and
the
little
right
R
places.
Republican is
I can't hear you, Marshall.
it's
said it
important
wasn't
that
the
we
right-
have them come over properly so that we don't have this big misunderstanding with supposed Republican voters and what the Republican Party actually stands for.
I mean, it's really not hard to figure out what the party stands for. We have this thing called a platform. People can read it. Having said that, platforms seem to matter less now than they ever have in my lifetime.
Right.
I'm looking
And you're
for.
okay with that?
Am I okay
Or
with
is
that?
that?
No. I prefer a firm statement of beliefs. The whole fucking party argued about that. We all got together and bitched and moaned and called people terrible, fucking awful things because they decided opposite from us. And then stick to that document. One of the things I have discovered in politics is it's essentially like herding fucking cats. And since that's never fun and it's always hard, you're always going to have a hard time in politics. It's going to be what it is. Do I think, Rev, that they're I think this is sort of kind of where you're poking. Do I think there are negative things that could happen with the Republican Party for the country? Yeah, but to be frank, not necessarily any more than the Democratic issues. I think the issue with Jan 6, which is what often gets referenced, is, yes, a mark on the calendar toward greater violence. However, I find some of the things I've heard said nicer, but that are just as extreme. So take, for example, Jamie Raskin. Well, let me first make this clear. The Democratic Party did not rush the Capitol, obviously. But Jamie Raskin was like, well, Supreme Court didn't do their job. And as a consequence, on January the 6th, Congress just might have to step in and pull Donald Trump out and stick Kamala Harris in. Now, this is literally the exact same shit that all of those loony fucking right people who couldn't bother to read a fucking rules book from the beginning to the end. It's the same sort of action or behavior. What's worse about it is Raskin's in the House and his party passed an update to the Electoral Count Act, which forbids the vice president from doing anything of the fucking kind. There's also this issue with Biden messing around, and this is I usually don't let loose about shit. I'm a little more composed than that, but there has been this issue with Biden holding up money for another country and saying, hey, you need to perform to X, Y thing, which is in addition to the treaty organization. And I'm speaking in more vagaries. But essentially was able to not appropriate money as Congress asked and used it for something else. That's the same thing that Donald Trump got impeached of at the same time. Granted, the extra part was, hey, you know, I kind of want you to help me, like, get some dirt on my political rival. But the exact same thing Donald Trump got impeached for is something the Democratic Party did. Now, I don't, as just a measure of operating, I don't think folks in the middle of the Democratic Party, to be clear, and I don't think most Democrats are crazy loons. That's just not how I operate. Other people operate differently, but that's how I operate. But I do think, much like folks on the Republican side who get out over their skis, they end up doing more harm to their cause than they do good. Doesn't
And
make
let me
bad
ask you,
people.
do you think if Trump loses, I know you think it's unlikely, but do you think he will run again if he loses this election?
I mean, what I would tell him was William Jennings Bryan ran 3 times. Literally, that's what I would tell the dude.
But I want to know what do you think in your heart of hearts that he?
Of course not. He'll be 82 years old, and he'll probably be in jail if he doesn't win.
Yeah, he won't run again, Reverend.
No, I actually don't think they'll put him in jail.
Because I don't think the party would put the money behind him again. They wouldn't.
Yeah, so look, I think all of those
Want to
can
take the
be,
risk?
I think all of those can be issues, but if there's like a takeaway from the talk about the upcoming election, it would be this. People on the right and people on the left should not count their eggs before they hatch. They should pursue every bit of reasonable work up until the election day to make sure they get out the people they want to vote. You don't want to wake up on November the 6th thinking to yourself, God, if only I'd donated that amount of money. If only I'd gone to that block walk. Right? So
I'm a single.
if they keep it on the work, then if people keep it on the work, then
The
there's
thing
less
is-
room for drama.
The thing is, I'm either way. Like I could vote. I'm a single issue voter, right? And so if the Republican Party could, accommodate the issue that was important to me, then I could vote Republican. I've never in my life, right? But I could vote Republican for that reason, because I have really, this election cycle has for the first time opened up my eyes about the Democratic Party. And I see them for who and what they are now, right? And so for voters like me, there is a chance, and I think that we are in greater number than the Republican Party thinks, but I think that to appease us, it's too big of a risk for them to lose their base. And I don't mean folks like you, Marshall. I mean, I believe you when you say you're moderate and you sound very rational in thought and in your language. But I'm talking about these,
You're talking about
at
folks
the
who
mouth.
think Donald Trump's the second coming of Jesus Christ.
Not just that. They get on the app and go nigger. Those.
I can't stand that shit either. Like
Marshall, do you mind if I get in here for real quick? I've got a question.
Yeah, dude, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to gap too much.
Reverend, I mean this sincerely. You haven't said what your one issue is, and I don't assume I know what it is.
No, I
Before
didn't.
Before you say what it is, would you let us know when you say if we could come your way? In all honesty, do you mean if only we felt exactly like you feel about it, or do you mean if we could come and find a compromise that we could all agree with, even if we all don't get what we want?
Well, I couldn't vote if the compromise included that I didn't get what I want. I mean, does that make sense? I mean,
Well, you can
either it's something he would do it or he would not do it.
All right.
It's as simple
So
as
that's
that.
a little bit different from a compromise. We're not going to be able to, at some point, everyone has to agree on what they're willing to compromise on and what they're not. So you just said you're not willing to compromise on a certain issue, and fair enough.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If but it's like the Republicans have to, if there is a what do you call it, a voting population out there that is undecided, or they're just decidedly against this whole system. They think it's broken and fucked up, which is where I fall. And if he, were, or anybody in the party were to say, okay, I don't care if you agree with it, I don't care if you believe in it, but if you say, well, this will get me votes, it'll get me enough votes to push me over, and it would take from the Democratic Party. It would guarantee their loss, right? Then I think that you kind of shoot yourself in the foot. And I know it sounds like, okay, you're kind of, holding somebody hostage at the at gunpoint. I know that that's the way that it sounds, but I don't think that Republicans are, or Democrats for that matter, are above those kind of dirty politics anyway. But it's just a matter, like I said, I don't think.
Can I weigh in here for a second? Let me just wrap up. Let me just really quickly wrap up, and then I'll let you talk, Chuck. I guess I would just say that we should do a good job of letting you know what we aren't willing to compromise on. And then once we've done that, we'd love to compromise on other things. But if we can't compromise on something and you can't come our way, then it was nice talking to you, and we wish you well.
And by the way, Reverend.
Yeah, but it's y'all that
Reverend,
the question.
Reverend, hold on. That doesn't make anybody a bad person, by the way. You realize that too, right? Compromise or not compromise.
What a bad person?
Doesn't make the other people bad people, right? You agree with that?
Oh my goodness! It doesn't make the people who will not compromise with my. It makes them bad politicians. Because if the goal is to try to get my vote and people who think like me on this single issue, then you failed at that.
Okay.
I can't.
Yeah, I mean, it just not necessarily. I don't really care if you're a bad person. I think there have been plenty of presidents who were bad.
Sure.
Right.
But your own people, you wouldn't consider them bad people for not compromising certain things, right? Your fellow people on the stage here, for example.
For not. No, I don't know them. And you have to understand something. That is really, you have to understand how not unimportant that is to me, whether or not people are good or bad.
Can't do shit for
like
anyone. It's just common
I'm
sense.
that jaded, and I'm also that cracked.
Go ahead, Chuck. You're up. Go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, I'm just listening, and I'm trying to rationalize some of what's being said, because I don't know if some of what's being said is just sort of a bias, like an unconscious bias against Republicans. The fact of the matter is that the Republican Party itself has changed, has adapted. I mean, this idea that, RFK is now able to come over and be a Democrat with Republicans and stand with folks like Tulsi Gabbard and start talking about issues is the epitome of in quote unquote compromising. These are people that are now aligned from both parties. You look at the other side, and we talk about J6, and don't get me wrong, I'm not going to go there with that. But at the same time, you have Americans bombing, providing bombs to go destroy places in Russia in the name of a proxy war that we're killing innocent people by just by offering these folks bombs and such.
Yeah, but that's not my single
The guys who started the fight don't get the guys that started the fight don't get one fucking tear ever shredded from me, fucking ever. He knew what he was doing before he did it.
Well, again,
he knew it was going to cost him a lot of lives, and he decided.
But again, this is exactly where I'm going. This is exactly what is happening with this sort of psyop brainwash that somehow, Trump is a deal maker. Trump is someone who makes deals. And if we haven't seen that in our face right now with RFK, with Tulsi Gabbard, with all these other folks,
Yes,
This
because
idea
the
that-
Americans
hold on,
telling
hold on.
the Ukrainians what they need to do is going to fucking
you're
work.
you're going to Ukraine and Russia. I was using a simple suggestion that folks are freaking out about January 6th when people are dying in Israel, Lebanon, in everywhere else, the Gaza Strip, everywhere else. But if you ask a Democrat, J6 is the most important thing ever. Yet all these other things that are happening, all these other shifts on the world stage.
I don't think
are
you
not
talk
even
to many
acknowledged.
Democrats.
Well,
I knock a bunch of doors and I knock Democrat doors and they don't say
even have
shit
a chance
like
to
that.
speak with you, Marshall. You
Marshall,
you
Chuck
just
is right.
jumped in.
No. Chuck is right about that. They're making January 6th quite a big deal, at least on this app. You're not saying that that's not happening. Every discussion involves.
No, dude, I wasn't talking about the app. I was talking about real life, not the app itself.
That's all they're running on, Marshall. Hold on.
That is real life.
Hold on. That is literally the Democrats' campaign. It's anything but Trump. It doesn't matter what we say. It doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter how dumb we are. We're just going to plug and play and do politics on the party. And it's anyone but Trump and January 6th. That's all they have. Oh, and abortion. Those are the three key issues that they're running on. That's it.
Matt, can I jump into 2 seconds, Matt?
I didn't say that. I said when Democratic voters talk to me, that is what they said.
I don't know, man. It seems like they make a lot of a big deal.
How you doing, Gus? It's good to hear from you, man. Hey.
Yo, what's up?
Jay had a question. Real quick. Go ahead, Jay.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I came up because Reverend keeps talking about her vote is so important and it could be bought. Reverend, what's that one issue you want them to compromise on? I'm just curious, Reverend.
How did I know that was going to be your question? Yeah, I'd rather not say because I don't think it's important. It's just the Republicans have made clear that they're not willing to fulfill it. And I think it's because they would be worried about losing their base. That's what I think. But I think that if the right candidate could make the base see that compromising on this or doing this transaction.
Why are you talking in vague terms, though, Reverend?
Huh?
Why are you talking in such vague terms?
I'm not
hold on a second, Chuck. I wasn't done.
Let it go, Jay. Let it go. But because I don't think it matters.
It matters. It does matter because it does matter because what you want is to put your hand in people's pockets. So why don't you just announce what it is so we could all get on the same page?
We are on the same page because we were doing fine before you brought this up. None of the other gentlemen.
You brought it up.
No.
When you said my vote could be bought, if they give it to reparations, you're a phony, and that's exactly
okay. I didn't say anything.
Right.
I was talking to Marshall and Board, and they never pressured me. They didn't pressure me about anything specific. So that's what
Reverend, you said you saw the Democratic Party in a different light. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? I'm just curious to hear what you meant by that.
You asking me?
Yes, I am. Yes. Yeah. You mentioned before you see them in a different light now. Just curious to what you meant by that.
Just the way that they're they play in their base's face. And the way that they become more emboldened about it, and the fact that they're letting in.
I think the word you're looking for is craven.
I don't know. I don't really know what that means. They become more emboldened about it as they let immigrants in, and I think that they want them to replace their base, and so they're acting even more like I don't give a fuck about you, and. For me, that was really it. And really, I don't think there's any difference between the two parties now. I think they're both bought by AIPAC, right? And it's just they're chasing money. You know, I wish somebody would again start to chase votes because, my vote is transactional and. You can get it, but everybody's is.
Hey, Reverend.
But unfortunately, that is a flaw of the U.S. system, isn't it? That money does, influence a lot, and that a lot of the politicians can't, as equally pursue their policy goals in as much as they have to seek money and be altered by.
How do you expect
Correct.
money not to hold on? How do you expect money to not get into that? And before you answer, in my town, there is a proposition on the ballot. It is to take McAllen mayoral elections, which typically cost in excess of $15,000. Now, they want to pass a law so that people running for McAllen mayor can only spend $500. Now, I'm not saying you said that obviously terrible amount of money. What I am saying is if you are to do the things you need to do and to turn people out, money is the thing you have to have. And it's not simply because people are craven. Take, for example, what I do for a living. I go out, I either advise a campaign as a consultant, or I go do their ground game, right? And so I like go from door to door, and I talk to people about that kind of stuff. And that doing that is only possible in 8 to 9 hour stints if the person is paid. I can get it. So, for example, I could get a suite of volunteers. Let's just call it 20 volunteers. Out of those 20 volunteers, I'm going to get 3 people who will do anything that moderately approximate hard work. Now, the point of adding all of that stuff in is that, yes, money does affect politics, and yes, it can affect it in coercive ways that are bad for it. But to be equally practical, I don't see that you can run elections and get rid of it. Because the alternative is for the state to fund that kind of stuff.
Right.
And Americans are just not. We don't trust that shit. If people want localities to fund it in that way, there are just too many Americans that don't trust their governments in that fashion, regardless of what political party they're in.
Richard,
So
go.
the
Richard,
electorate.
Richard,
Oh,
hold on a
sorry.
second. Hold on.
Okay.
Just hold on. I'll let you reply in 1 second. I feel Chuck, did we cut you off earlier? I forget if we did that, but I'm going to let Richard go. Then Chuck, if you want to say some more stuff, I feel like we cut you off there earlier. But go ahead, Richard. Go ahead and respond. Mark.
Sorry, I apologize if I did that. Sorry. Did I cut Chuck? I apologize if it happened. But I would say
it all. Yeah.
Okay.
As a group, we did. I think.
Oh, okay. I would suggest that if we see the problem and identify the problem, and there's enough support, bipartisan, right, that it can be solved. I dare say maybe too many politicians are addicted to the cash and to the opportunities. And this may be something that has to be led from the grassroots level if we really want to see some remedy to this problem of, special interests and money, clouding the issue and, making our politicians not as noble as they ought to be in terms of pursuing the goals that we elect them for, right? It has been done in other countries. And if the will of the people is there, I think it can happen, you're right. It's going to be difficult. It's all change, and especially fundamental change, that's going to take money out of the hands of the people who are the ones to change the laws to make these things happen. Is really difficult. But I think grassroots movement, if we start there, could.
So I agree with the grassroots. I think that's a very, very good point. Any real kind of moderation on what it costs to do the job, and people not being greedy about it. Is something that's not the right analogy. I had a conversation with my political mentor the other day, and I was reminded while I was bitching about something that really doesn't matter. I don't like complaining, but even I have somebody I complain to. And I was complaining essentially about the glass being half empty. And my mentor said, "Look, bro, yeah, you got to make money, and yeah, you got to put food on the table, so do what you got to do. But the reason you do the work isn't because you get paid to do it. The pay simply allows you the time to do that, right? You do what you do because it's a chance to serve your country. Right? Obviously, I don't put that at the same level as military service, but serving your country is serving your country. And when people buy into that really transactionally, I think that's where you start talking and seeing in real ways the coercive effects of money on politics. And I'll end with this because I love history. There was a dude named Lycurgus who was a Roman consul in 5 BC. Went down into the middle of Greece to talk to Sisyphus. I think it was Sisyphus. No, it's not Sisyphus. I can't remember the general's name. Anyway, went in to see this general, and this guy offered him a tenfold.
Brevity.
Yeah. So tenfold loot. He looks at the guy and he goes, "All you got to do is do nothing, and just say no big deal." And the guy looks at him and he says, "The esteem of my countrymen is essentially worth more than money." So you need to people need to approach it for that reason. But I agree, you need to build in guardrails to account.
Did he cut out? I don't know.
No, I was done.
Oh wow! Wow. Okay.
Sorry, I talked for far too long.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I let you go for a little while because you always got good insight. But were you talking to Richard? I don't even know where we were at. That's the only problem was going long.
Yes, he is responding to me on the issue I raised of taking the money out of politics, in terms of corporate donations and outside money, and having it formalized like some countries have done, so that it's not an issue of money now, but we now debate the issues of policy and vote our assent or our dissent, by casting our votes. So, just to kind of clean the system up a bit and make it more accurate to the needs of the people.
I mean, my thing could be anything. It could be the reversal of Roe v. Wade, for example. Think about how many Democrats would compromise for that. Women voters specifically would say, "Okay, I can come across to your party for you to reverse this 50-year-old." But think about how much went into getting that.
Reverend, do you understand that it's unconstitutional, and that if it was reversed, that would just fly in the face of everything we stand for?
Yeah, you're.
Well, except if you don't win, it doesn't matter. That's what I'm saying.
It actually does. It has.
Well, no, because you can't enact anything if you don't win. If you're not actually in there.
The keystone principle that Republican Party stands on, that they value life, that they sit there and actually want to say, "Hey, children have to be protected." That one of these things, and even some of them have shifted their stance to, include medical terminations,
You
rape
win on some
incest.
morality clause, but you can't convince somebody.
Hold on.
You can't convince somebody.
Yeah, but again, you're not for us, and we don't care for your vote. We would rather lose than have your vote in order to change the pillars.
Is that the
That's literally the
sentiment
way
of
it
the
is.
stage?
It's the same thing that Democrats do.
You don't speak for everybody.
Remember, this goes back to what I was talking about earlier. We don't compromise on our principles. Remember, we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah. Well, what happened with the amendment process?
I just don't understand it. If you're not going to get in the office,
insert it. Why don't you just do the right process and have it put in the Constitution so you could have what you want? Why do you do it the way you want to do it? It doesn't make sense. It's illegal, and anybody who stands on that side, we don't even want them on our party.
The Supreme Court ruling on shit is not illegal.
Y'all don't have to argue this. It doesn't matter if you don't get in the office. So is there some other way? And I'm not talking about just this election. I'm talking about 20. Hello. I'm talking about 20.
You keep talking in circles. You're asking abortion.
I'm not, but let me have my circle. I don't interrupt you though, Brad.
Yes, you do. You interrupt
I'm talking about. Yeah, he does. He's going to do this every time. I'm talking about 20, 30 years out, 40 years out. Where is this party going to be with its base not reproducing in the numbers where that they replace themselves? That's what I'm saying. So you can have the
Republican Party. That's your party.
You can have the moral high ground.
So
this
the
guy, he never lets anybody talk. I'm not going to respond to you.
Reverend, he's answering your question. Hold on, Marshall. Hold on.
Hold on, Marshall. So again.
No, wait, I'm not talking to you, Brad.
I don't care that.
It's on the stage.
In a conservative
house. You can answer it. Yeah, go ahead, Brad.
There you go. I thought so. This is one of the main things. Like, you have Democrats like her and others, and large swaths. They want to come in and say, "Hey, I'll vote for the Republicans, but here you have to take all of the pillars that you believe in, all the foundations, all the things, and you need to shove that aside and vote on the platform because I want a Democrat platform and a Republican Party." No. If you want the Democrat platform, then go to the Democrats and argue there. The Republicans argued for theirs. Now, abortion has shifted. Abortion is legal in every fucking state and territory. You can get it for there. Are there restrictions? Absolutely. Those exist in a variety of states. And even under Roe v. Wade, there were restrictions across every freaking state. It wasn't just, hey, you know what, I'm knocked up and you know it's the 9th month, I can go out and pop this kid out. No, there was massive amounts of restrictions in every state. You should probably go research that before you come on stage and telling Republicans they need to adopt the Democrat platform. They don't want to. They don't like it. They don't want the fiscal. They don't want the social programs massively in debt. They don't want to go to war at every time. They don't want to go help Israel. They really they do and they don't. And they don't want to go pay for Ukraine. They don't want to go pay for wars. They don't want to send their kids. Again, they want domestic focus. They want energy primarily funneled through here. They want to be able to afford a way of life. They want blue-collar jobs and labor jobs to be excelled at the same rate that, quote, your college education and underwater lesbian basket weaving is going to take place. And there's a host of issues that, again, for her, no. Walk away. Go do you. I don't care for your vote then. Because I'm not going to compromise on who I am. I'm not going to change it, and I'm not going to blow up everything that I have fought for just so I can garner your one vote. It doesn't matter to me. It's not how our system is based on, and it's not how we actually conduct politics.
Well, and Brad, really quick, the direction we're going, we're going to need waterproof baskets. So they're going to be pretty valuable, I think. But yeah, I don't think welcoming these Democrats over, and I'm an independent, so I'm speaking actually on a right side of independent voter. But these people shouldn't come over because the radical leftists took over their party and pushed them over. They need to take their party back and stand up for liberty like they used to and push those radicals back to their communist American party.
Wallace, they're the ones.
You realize
their party's
that's
the one
not
that's
how
bleeding out.
political affinity and loyalty function, right?
Yeah.
That's just not the way American politics works, dude. It's just
so you don't see that the Democrat Party has been hijacked by a bunch of anti-liberty leftists?
Exactly. They're bleeding out.
A good fucking portion of the time, I think my party has been hijacked by a
Marshall, can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
No, I can hear you, Matt.
Okay, Marshall, are you saying that the left, that their party's intact, that they're not bleeding out in some form? And then my follow-up question, and just be brief too, if you don't mind.
No, I'm not saying that. I am taking issue with what I view to be a perception that bad decision making is quartered in the Democratic Party, because that's the way it comes off to me. That may not be what was being said, but that's how I.
Marshall, there's extremists in both parties. There's a religious.
Also.
There's a religious right. There's a nationalistic front. There's a multiple extremists in the right. There's multiple extremists in the left. There's a shit ton of them, and they may get the optics because it's what each party tries to use as a cudgel. But really, in reality. I really am tired of seeing Republican values, cornerstones, things that we cared about for so long, be compromised on. We should take a stance on the Second Amendment. No, I'm not going to capitulate to that. Why would I? Why would I, just to get a Democrat to vote, say, you know what, let's ban all guns? That's not in my wheelhouse. And no, I don't like the steps that go forward to it. I want to be able to protect myself. I want to be able to protect my family. I want to be able to hunt. I want to be able to trap. I want to be able to do the things that I need to. I want to go sport shooting. I don't care what the Democrat narrative is, because if they actually truly cared about any of the issues, for instance, school shootings, they would have garnered the 250, whatever it was. I think Yosh has these numbers broken down pretty good. But the 250,000 per school, just to freaking tighten security, they could have done that. We put TSA up overnight to garner all airports and bus terminals. but we can't do it for schools. So the Democrats clearly don't really care about this cornerstone issue. It's a money grab.
Brad, can I ask you a question? So I think we're all on the same page that we're not going to compromise on our principles. And if I were just to kind of play devil's advocate here, then I will feed into their question of, so then who are we going after as a party? If we're not like willing to compromise, we do have to go after a certain group of people to convince them, right? I mean, they aren't wrong about that. That there's a certain group out there that we have to convince, right? I think that's kind of
that's what I'm saying.
That's what they're trying to get at.
You also have to make sure you don't fall into a purity spiral, which is an academic term for meaning like if you're not 100% what I am, then fuck you.
It's like the basket of deplorables.
No. That's not. You're not saying that about me, Marshall, are you? Because that's not what I said at all.
Of course not. Nothing I said was indicated to be anything about you. I wasn't
okay.
You in any way, shape, or form.
I don't expect anybody's going to do that. But I'm saying if there's a single issue that people will say, because I don't agree with half of the stuff the Republican Party, their platform represents their platform, but I will compromise on that. So I guess I should have answered the question differently. Like, yeah, I could compromise on those other things, and in that sense, I would be compromising if they would fulfill the one single issue that I would give up my vote.
Real quick, like for example, how about defense, Reverend? Do you think the defense of your country is an important thing? Like, is there any compromise that you're not going to not compromise with us on that, right? I'm just trying to look out like an issue.
I'm the wrong person for you. I'm black, so
wait. That shouldn't matter.
But you live in America.
It does matter, but that's the thing. The fact that y'all don't think it matters.
Wait. Hold on.
I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to yell at Brad.
You don't think the invasion of the country that you're sitting in is important?
Yeah, that's a different question. I think the invasion of any country is. I think the invasion of Ukraine is important.
I can go with the question you want. That's my question.
Right there, we don't agree. The Republican Party massively does not agree with the Ukraine scenario.
Did you ask me or did you ask Brad?
That's amazing, Reverend. I'm gonna
why won't you moderate him? Brad, why don't you moderate him? It's like I was trying to answer, and he thinks it's his job to speak for me and speak over me, no matter what room I'm in.
All right.
Did you want to hear?
Move off that. So you just don't. You just completely don't agree on that. That's pretty.
Are you going to answer for me?
Are you talking? Are you talking to me?
Yeah, because you're telling me what I think.
No, you just told me what you thought. You already told me, right?
No, I didn't. I didn't get a chance to.
Yeah, you did.
Brad started talking.
You said that because you're black, it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter because we have to agree with you on that or something like that.
No. I didn't get a chance to finish.
All right,
I started off with I'm black, and then I started off with that, and then I was cut off.
I'll give you.
Yeah, I was not. This was my answer.
You want another try or no?
Will you mod Brad? Because I won't talk over him. I'm not going to do that. It strains my voice.
You've been talking nonstop. It's like no one's cut you off. We've listened to your responses. You said you believe in support for Ukraine. No, I didn't. I didn't cut you off anywhere.
You're doing it now. Reverend, if you want me to take this one, I could. I'm an immigrant. I'm a Democrat.
No, I just want them. No, I just want them to mock this man.
I personally think you're batshit fucking crazy, but I've listened to you enough.
Yeah, see, and he's doing it again. Like, is that supposed to trigger me? Am I supposed to now call him some kind of derogatory name?
Reverend, we're not going to talk about Brad anymore. You and Richard could have a dialogue. Do you want that, or we're just not going to have
it? If Brad doesn't cut me off, Richard, I'd be happy. I actually dig this room, and I dig the topic, and for the most part, most of you, except him, just seem pretty rational. And this is really, it's flowing. It's a cool combo. But I'm not going to talk over him, and y'all refuse to address the elephant in the room. You won't say, okay, he comes off the mic again, I'm going to shoot him. Boom, that's it. He needs to respect the rules.
How about we shoot you? How about we get you off?
Hold up.
Who the fuck are you?
This is wild, Reverend. We're not sitting.
I'm talking to the house curator, not you, sir.
Adam,
I can't even hear him.
You're the Matrix, Adam.
I can't even understand him. Yeah, but boy, this is your room. You gotta.
Well, I'm telling you right now, don't mention Brad right now. Let's keep going. Instead of the dialogue between you and Richard, don't mention him. Don't mention him at all. No reason to. Go ahead, Richard, and go ahead.
Yeah, you're not gonna mod it.
Yeah, you're going to play victim because you don't have his hand.
Reverend said he's going to speak, so are you going to or not?
Richard, do you have a question for Reverend?
No, it wasn't a question. The question came up about the fence, as it was said, and a comment on that, and Reverend said he would answer. So I said if he didn't want to, I could speak to that.
Go ahead. Maybe he won't cut you off.
All right, could you repeat the question in total so I can make sure I answer properly? As best I can.
It was Board's question. Board is.
Yeah, go ahead, Board. Restate the question. You mentioned because it got cut off, so I didn't quite hear everything.
I asked, I think we could all agree that there should be some sort of defense for a nation. And I was picking that out as one example of something that we all can, have a compromise on. I was trying to find something. And to me, it seemed like Reverend said, I don't belong here with any of you guys. So just no need to even talk about it. Is essentially what I...
No. State your question. No, man. Yes.
That's my question. Why can't we all agree on that? That's the question, yeah.
Agree on the board, on having a defensive... Yes, I agree. No, I don't think that's in contention. Yeah, sure.
Well,
you have to defend your border. I mean, especially in the age of terrorism, you can't just have unidentified individuals crossing the border, potentially, with the, potentially causing harm to the country. Yeah, I mean, 9/11 certainly taught us that lesson. I was in New York for that. Trust me, it was a horrible day. I was literally there. I saw everything. Not a nice moment in history.
Adams, did you want to say something? Go ahead.
This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Y'all, Matt, God bless Matt. He's doing all the heavy lifting while I'm working. Y'all know that this ain't the Matt.
And
is she in the Matrix, or is it me?
Right?
Hold on.
Can y'all?
She's still in the Matrix.
Matt,
Hold on.
seriously, you're embarrassing us. You can't even run your fucking room. Do the commies let you?
You're in the Adams. I'm just gonna mute you.
Yeah, is everybody in the Matrix all of a sudden, Board?
Yeah,
Not you.
That's just really weird.
Yeah, well, yeah, I got a good phone, so.
It does sound good. You sound really good.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess to continue then.
Maybe that fool is maybe he's in the Matrix too now. And so I'll be really fast. What I was trying to say before I was cut off was that I'm the wrong person to be asking to be patriotic. So that is not those kind of, and I realize that I may not be and you putting up what did you put up there?
That's a red flag.
Frank gets it.
That's a red
See,
flag.
the fact that he understands.
Red flag
Would you mute,
warning.
please? Could somebody mute Wallace? Can somebody mute him? Thanks. The fact that you don't understand that I'm black and I'm not automatically, unless you just got here yesterday or you just from an alien from another planet and would not even concede the basic fact that I belong to a group here in this country that's been treated like a gigantic anal suppository. And so,
as far as we concerned, you were born with a dick. We don't know what
you're in the Matrix. Nobody can hear you.
And you're in the closet, you drag queen.
So, could y'all please? Okay. And so, if you won't at least admit that from the basic.
Can you admit that you're a drag queen?
Could y'all please? Board, are you gonna do something about this, dude? This is it's annoying. So, Richard, are you here?
About that dick?
All right, he's in the Matrix. Nobody can hear him. He's in the Matrix. Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah.
Did you understand what I was?
Yes,
what I was getting at?
But
it's not that I
will say. Yeah, I'll have to maybe disagree with you a little bit on this. In that I am proud of America and what America stands for in the world, especially because I come from another country, and I know that what it can be to not have, the opportunity to be.
But you can understand why my view is. I can't share that view because I don't know an experience in another country.
I'm black myself, you know. But,
Yeah,
and this
but
is
not, I'm not
fine,
from
you
a
know,
third world
not everybody
experience.
is right. And not everybody is going to have the same exact identical, you know, position on, you know, various points of contention. That's fine. You know, this is the nature. This is again.
No. I was asking if you could understand, just
Why
from
are
an
you cutting him
objective
off?
point of
Weren't
view.
you- why are you
Richard, I
cutting
can't.
him off?
Oh my God, Richard, you got to
Why
talk
are you
louder
cutting
because
him off?
he's
Why are
coming
you
off.
cutting
It's
him
coming
off?
off his
Why are you
mic.
cutting
The
off
monster is
Richard?
coming off.
Why are you cutting off Richard? I don't
So
know.
Richard, I was asking. Yeah, I was asking you if from an objective point of view.
You let him finish.
From an objective point of view, can you
and let
see?
him finish.
Can you hear me, Richard? Because he's not going to stop, and Board's not going to mod him.
Listening.
Yeah. So, from an objective point of view, I was just asking you to see why someone in my position would not be the most patriotic. Like, you know, ask LGBTQ, or ask anybody. But you know, don't ask somebody, because just objectively, can you just see why I might feel that way and not you and the others on this stage? Can you see that?
Most certainly.
Okay.
Because again, your life experience is not my shared life experience, and obviously you more than likely been here longer than I have.
But even millions. Oh yeah, I've been here my whole life.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
And millions, and Richard, more importantly, millions who have my lineage.
Ask her how long this man identified.
Thank God.
Yeah. So, but yes, so to jump back to the issue of the border, yes, that is important. You know, definitely going forward, definitely with what's going on with Israel and Palestine, you know, you can expect very likely, and if war breaks out in the Middle East, you know, which it very likely could, you know, an increase in the risk of terrorism and, you know, the knock-on economic effects and all, it would be terrible. You know, we definitely have to do, you know, make very, you know, strident but reasonable, well thought out steps towards defending the borders, no doubt about it, and to work, you know, closely with, the people living in those areas, because they know it best, you know, what they're facing at this point in time. But again, I would remind all that politics are clouding the issue, and this harkens back again to the need to have a more, you know, greater respect for honest dialogue and partisan, you know, or bipartisan work towards achieving goals for all Americans, for the defense of the country entire, right? Because that's really important, to not allow politics and deception, right, and untruthfulness to cloud the truth of what's really going on the border. Because I can tell you, I don't think most of the Democrats I've spoken to are not against safe, you know, doing the border. But I think what was proposed by Donald Trump was not effective, and I think that may be part of the problem, that it was being used as a political football, and, you know, we need to do
Richard, by the way, I'm not saying just the defense, like the border. I'm just talking about defense in general. Like, I don't know why there's any wiggle room on this. I think a nation should be able to defend itself.
Yeah, because
I got pushback from Reverend. It was very strange.
No. Well, because you're essentially saying, well, yes, I know because you're black, think you don't actually have equality in the full sense, right? But it's like things could be worse for you, right? And it's like, that is not really the way to get my vote, or a lot of people, you know, who are in my part of my ethnic group. That's not a way. Well, you know, you're eating shit crumbs now, but you could have fewer of those. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's like, yeah, things can be worse for us, but they've already been worse. You know what I'm saying? They've already been worse. So it really isn't. That isn't a way to, you know, persuade me to come over to your side.
I don't think there's anybody on this stage or in this room who's a Republican right now who thinks there's any chance whatsoever that we could persuade you in any way to consider.
I don't mean me directly. We were talking about a voting population that can be captured potentially by the Republican Party, and he was asking me, well, if you think about this, things could be worse. That's just not a direction to go. I think it's hard. You'd be hard to win anybody over like that. You know, if you know that their situation is more fucked up, to whatever degree you think it is, right? Fix that. bring them level to everyone else before you start talking about, well, things could be worse, right? To a group that they already know has already had it worse. Do you understand what I'm saying?
We're feeling pretty good about where we are right now. And even if there are 1 million people who think like you, we've already told you maybe a half an hour ago that we're not going to compromise. We can already see that there's no compromise possible with you and the million.
Well, you don't speak for the Republican Party.
We're having a nice conversation, and I'm trying to be nice about it, but I don't think anybody here believes that you're persuadable at any point.
Well, that's why people can speak for themselves. So that's cool.
I'll give it a shot.
Wait, you just said that
there you go.
For about 1 million people or more who think like you do. So perhaps I'm speaking.
Yeah, but you don't speak for the Republican Party. Yeah, you don't speak for the Republican Party though. What'd you say, Brian?
Sorry, were you not I said maybe I'm speaking for myself, but you've already said that you're not.
No, you're right. I don't speak for the Republican Party, Rev. I speak for myself, like Man K is speaking for himself. Who are you speaking for? Yourself?
No, I'm speaking for the potential votes out there that could be captured by the Republican Party. Somebody who was, supportive. Maybe there are other people like me who is dissatisfied with the Democratic Party, and it's unfortunate that we have only two choices, right? That's why I'm registered green. And I know that it's probably a snowball's chance in hell, but at least I'll feel good about, voting for, supporting their, at least they have a platform that I can support, and they're not,
the Democrat Party. You said Democrat Party, right?
No, I said Green Party.
Brian, you want to give it a go? Go for it. You're on.
Yeah, can I ask you a couple questions first, Rev?
As long as they're not hostile.
No, I'm not hostile. What would you say, how would you characterize the current Democrat and Republican Party if you had to put it each one in a sentence, what they stand for?
Corporatists.
Both of them together?
Together?
What I'm asking is, how would you characterize
each of them, I would
Democrats
say.
and how would you characterize Republicans?
Fundamentally, I really don't think there's really much difference to them. I think that the Democrats will say whatever to get elected. I don't even think they have any core. I don't even think they have any true core fundamental beliefs other than just getting enough money so that they can win their seat back. But if indeed the Republicans are, all about principle, even if we lose, well, okay, fine. You win that. You win that prize. But
okay, well, let me offer this. Hang on. Let me offer this and see if you agree or disagree. So the way things have unfolded, in my opinion, over the past few decades is maybe longer. The left has become more open to using force. And by that I mean mandates, violence, high taxes, which deprives us of our own wealth and our own ownership of the fruits of our labor, things like that. Whereas the way I see Trump and at least what he's trying to do, I agree with you that some Republicans aren't fully on board with this, but I see the Republicans as opposing that by saying we want less government, right? So most Republicans are for smaller government, and that means they want less intrusion in your life as far as mandates, high taxes, high regulations, things like that. They want you to take ownership of your life, whereas people on the left think that when we go down that road, you get winners and losers. That's why you always hear them talk about equity and equality. They don't want people to get left behind. They think that the system is rigged, the system is unfair. There are too many, ways for people to get left behind, whether it's academically, socially, financially, whatever. So therefore, they have to manipulate the system to arrive at certain outcomes, like equal outcomes. And that requires them to take over certain parts of the economy, like Obamacare, like I said, higher taxes, higher regulations, things like that. And in that regard, I think some of the, Republicans and Democrats in, D.C., especially under the executive branch, like the EPA, IRS, things like that, they do share that model, but once you get out of D.C., then I think most Republicans kind of align the way I described. Would you agree with that or disagree?
Well, I'll be honest. I don't know much about the Republicans outside of DC. So, like I said, it just hasn't been a party that I've followed until recently.
Okay, so then let me ask you this. Hang on, let me keep going for a couple minutes. So, if you would. Let's say take me at my word and agree that if you're not familiar, if somebody else wants to put in the chat or, something that says I'm completely inaccurate, then that's fine. But just between you and me, let's just take it for granted that what I said is somewhat accurate. Okay, so would you rather have a government that uses force or uses persuasion to, say, earn your vote and run the country? You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah. Well, obviously, I don't want somebody who uses force on me. I mean, I don't think that you can force somebody to vote. But if you mean, do you mean in terms of intimidation?
So think about what's happening. Think about what's happening with Trump. Being sued, being threatened with criminal prosecutions, people from all up and down, the ladder.
Dude, I wish you just say Republican Party because he is just not a good. I think you'd get better off.
Brian, you're saying I want to make sure we've got this clear. The MAGA is the Republican Party, somewhat, right, Brian?
Yeah, well, I think as the titular head, I think he represents and with his percentage of support, I think the vast majority of Republicans, rank and file, do support him. Of course, there are some.
Well, let me put it another way. If he drops out tomorrow, will the platform change?
Not substantially. I think you'd get somebody who would pick up the baton, whether it's Vance or Ramaswamy or DeSantis or maybe Tom Cotton or Josh Hawley. So not substantially.
Okay, so that's what I meant. If you just because no matter who, because he can only run twice. I mean, he can only be president twice. So the Republican Party, if their platform is going to remain the same, then I think it makes more sense to talk about, when you present these questions to me, to present it as in support of the Republican Party's platform.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. I don't really like to talk about Republicans and Democrats. I'd rather talk about ideas and principles, and then we see which party more often and to a larger degree supports those ideas and those principles, I think when we get bogged down by saying Trump did this and Biden said that or Kamala's, this kind of person, then we go off target because then we start quibbling about, the minutia of interpreting their behavior, right? So I'd rather talk about principles.
Yeah, that's fine. But you can do that without saying Trump, right? Because even among the Republican Party, he turns what's his name, Cheney, Dick Cheney, for example. I mean, you just would never see that coming, right? So, but this guy has been a lifelong Republican his entire life, right? And now he's
Trump?
Dick Cheney.
Oh, Dick Cheney. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, like you would have never seen that him saying he's going to vote for Kamala. So that's why I'm saying, because Trump is such a polarizing figure, if the platform remains the same, then I think you could have it'd be better if you spoke to me in terms of that. Or if you just want to say ideals, if these ideals represent the Republican Party's platform, then that's fine. Whether Trump is here or not.
What I'm saying is I'm not even trying to get yet to the Democrats or Republicans. I'm just trying to figure out what your life philosophy is. And then we see which party best represents or fights for those ideals that you hold dear. So I'm not even
Okay, I'll explain. I get what you're saying.
Republican portion yet.
I get what you're saying, Brian. And my answer to that is, I support the Second Amendment. I also support women's right to choice, right? I support I support less, government, right? But that means also outside of the bedroom, right?
Why do you support less government? What do you mean by that? What about that do you mean? What do you mean less government? I support less government. What does that mean?
Oh, well, like you explained, less government in terms of public agency control, and trying to, basically trying to make certain things that should be private or that function better in the private sector, make them under government control. I don't think that's necessarily always a good idea.
Yeah,
that's great, Rev. Okay. That's what I meant by little r.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
So,
Brian.
So let me ask this follow up. So what exactly is your stronghold or your strong connection, I should say, to the Democrats? I mean, because what you've described,
I don't have one.
Leans more.
That's what I was saying.
Right.
No, I don't. Yeah, because I'm saying I named a few things, and I am immovable on women's right to choice. Right, I'm immovable on that. And there are a couple other things I'm just immovable on. But I'm not so. Hello, I'm not so immovable that like I said, if I could sacrifice that, right? If the Republican Party or whoever's running in that seat for president would fulfill my single issue.
So if you're a single issue voter, then and abortion or reproductive rights is your single issue.
No, I'm not saying that it is, but I use that as an example.
Your biggest driver.
But you understand it's unconstitutional, right, Rev?
I can't understand.
But you understand it's unconstitutional. You can't even really make that your.
Hang on, let's not badger her. Well,
I'm just explaining to her that if that's her one. Go ahead.
I never said it is, and that's why I won't say it, because I don't want people like Wallace.
I know, you just keep bringing it up, and it's so lame, I'm just tired of it.
Well,
right.
Yeah.
We're going to move the mic around a little bit here. Brian, I think that was your last question for right now, right?
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate it.
Brian, that was fair, and I do have a question later for Reverend, but Monica, we don't want to make this just the Reverend room, but Monica, go ahead if you had a question.
So when you said you're immovable about reproductive rights, when do you think our Constitution and our laws cover the fetus? When it's born? Is there no limit to the time limit for abortions for you? At birth is okay? They can kill the infant? Or I can't hear you, Rev.
I don't think Reverend's there. Reverend?
Monica, actually, I couldn't hear your question too well. You're kind of quiet too. Can you repeat that?
I was just trying to define the parameters of the immovable pro-choice stance. Are we co-signing late-term partial birth abortions? Or is Rev saying, yeah, that's good? Like, does she have any boundaries? When do we confer the rights of a U.S. citizen to the fetus/child? Only when they're born? Or she might not have an answer. It's okay. We can move on.
I think I can answer that for you.
Go ahead, Richard.
Only when it's an anchor, baby.
Well, I think abortion is a very difficult subject, because again, there are people like myself who are conservative on the Democratic side about that issue, and definitely late term is not the way.
but I am also, I guess, personally swayed by some scientific arguments as to the point of conception of life, etc., and also to the needs of the mother that have to be weighed into the equation, and hence, women's right to choose, so to speak, as to how they would have a pregnancy affect their, life and future prospects. As far as the determination of time, I'd say it's a tricky one. Definitely, there's a window in which the fetus can't feel pain, isn't as fully developed, so on and so forth. There is going to be a future time when we will be able to detect various defects in the child that people may opt to terminate a pregnancy before it gets to the point, right, of becoming something that, will lead to harm for the mother, potentially harm for the child, because it's not just enough to say, be born, what quality of life will that, individual have? Now, I do realize that religion clouds the issue, and that's an important part
You can't
of the
determine
debate.
quality of life either, Richard. You have no idea what someone's life is going to be like through the course of their lifetime. I can't do that. I don't think anybody on stage.
Well,
if you're going to give me a carve out, you don't.
Yeah, sure,
have
sure.
that.
Well, yeah, there are various. I'm trying to call. There are various illnesses that they can detect genetically, and I think it is done. I can't answer to the detail right now. I'd have to look it up, and anybody could, I'm sure, Google that in their time. But as I understand it, there are cases in which it can be determined. And again, as the technology develops, this will become easier. We can foresee that. The thing is advancing and progressing, so it wouldn't be something out, and it makes sense to have these discussions now because we know it's coming, right? And it's a very contentious issue, as again, it plays into religion, it plays into conservative thought, no doubt about it. And I am with a lot of people on this.
Yeah, but do we
We
understand?
do have to have.
Yeah, but do we understand that it has nothing to do with this election, and that none of the conversation around this has anything to do with the president who's going to be elected? Are we talking about Trump and Kamala, or are we talking about abortion? What do we do?
The young lady raised the question, so I was just directing the answer to her.
So Wallace and Matt, to your point, like this is the issue that I see with a lot of Democrats that are like trying to come into Republican spaces and then sit there and go, well, you need to kind of give me this because I really want to on key cornerstone issues. They had social programs under the Democrats. Democrats pushed all these social programs, and guess what? A lot of people are waking up to this. On a lot of the Democrats side, saying, hey, wait a minute, the economy isn't really doing good for me. Since 1974, a non-college degree individual or a four-year college degree individual can't make wealth in this country. It's almost damn near impossible. That was the last year that a blue-collar person in 1974, per like economists across the board, state that you could actually generate wealth in this country on an average scale for your middle class Americans. Now you're living paycheck to paycheck because of these advanced taxes, and we need to help out purple-hearted lizards in Borneo that need to run on treadmills on a daily basis. With like a lot of this, and we have no government accountability. We have nothing there, and unfortunately for Rev, we all know what her one issue. She's been on this app for a number of years. Her one issue is, I just want reparations. I want a check from the government. Well, the government doesn't hand checks. The taxpayers do. And the power for for the Republican Party, which is why Cheney is no longer a leader or in office, is because the Republican Party, her constituent in mass, rejected her. They said, we don't want you. And it wasn't over Trump. It was the mere fact that she did a shit job in Colorado, and her people on the district she represented said, hey, you don't come visit us. You don't talk to us. You don't address our needs. You haven't had a town hall since you were elected. You don't even live here. You stay the majority, 90% of your time in D.C., and don't even come back to your own district. So what are we to do? No, you're not representing us. We reject you, and we don't like your brand of republicanism. It's not in alignment with what we want, and we're going to go with someone else. That's why Cheney got ousted, period. And it happens to Republicans all the time when they stray from the fray and want to work on, Northrop and Gunham or Raytheon and get rich and worry more about their stock portfolios rather than actually going for their constituencies. On Democrat and Republican side, they vote them out. They are not part of the party anymore. They're not a long-standing, traditional Republican that we should eye. Liz Cheney, that bitch ain't met a war she didn't like, and she didn't meet a military contract she didn't fucking approve. As far as I'm concerned, fuck her family, fuck all that shit. She's had her family and her are half of the fucking problems that we have in the Republican Party. Ain't nobody in the Republican Party really going to Liz Cheney for fucking advice. So, if that's your broadband and say she's really good because all she did was stand next to Kamala and give platitudes, shows how easily she was capitulated on her own values and the values of her constituency. And that's why she's not in power. That's why she's not elected. And that's why she doesn't speak at Republican conventions.
By the way, Brad, I think we have these people like Liz Cheney and that whole ilk over there that basically, was trying to, basically slap Trump in the face by not endorsing him, blah, 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 blah. It almost plays into the thinking that we've always said, that they were always trying to undermine Trump. Just in general, his administration. There was always a group that was always looking out to undermine. And we were told, well, that's not the case. There's nothing like that going on. I mean, I know you hear that
started in his campaign, Matt, when they wanted him to sign the paper saying you'll have to back and work on behalf of whoever's elected because we want to anoint St. Jeb Bush. And Bush,
exactly,
he's rejected. Republican Party reject Bush politics. I know Marshall's somewhere around here, and he's kind of akin to that, but they don't want that brand of republicanism. They want a more conservative approach. And Trump isn't a conservative. And the Republicans know this. Conservatives know this. Even the fucking America First people realize this. They're just willing to say, you know what? He's better than Cheney. He's better than Romney. He's better than a host of other people that you're going to throw in our faces and say, this is who you need to vote for. Who the fuck are the Democrats to tell us who to vote for? You guys can't even elect your own people. You bent the knee to someone who is puppeted up on your platform, and you bent the knee. And meanwhile, at your DNC convention, while you had a whole group of people on the bottom clapping, you had a whole roll at the top at $5, $10, $20 million box sets, sitting down looking on the serfs and saying, that's right, minions, you clap. All those rich people that were backing Kamala were sitting there looking down on those people and saying, yep, you're going to do what you say. And that's why Kamala flip-flops on every fucking issue. And this is why Democrats are fucking terrified, because they think internally she's in a lot of fucking trouble, and it's a lot worse than they're projecting it.
You raise a very good point, my brother. In that both parties, with these anointed leaders sort of being handed down, that's a point of contention we can agree on, because that is troubling. And it harkens back to the point I made earlier about money and power, corrupting the politics and making people become disillusioned with these quote unquote, officials and party, stalwarts, if you will, right? In that, is it really representative of the will of the people in total, Good point. Agreed.
Hey, really quick, I just want to tell Rev, I really appreciate her explaining her stance on what she thinks is good is a small government instead of large. I think you just did an olive branch there with a lot of people, especially like me, who thought you were just a flaming leftist. And I know that there are parts of America's history that really trouble you, and for good reason. So I want you to know that I like you. I've been following you a long time, and I do poke at you, and I do troll you a little bit, but I do like you. So yeah, good shares, Rev, and you get Republicans thinking, and it's good because you also get us to make the arguments we need to make. We just need to make them better, and I think where you're at helps us do that. So I just appreciate you, Rev, and hope you don't think otherwise.
Rev, you said you're a Green Party, right? Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
And you said you left the Democrat Party to the Green Party. Is that correct?
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
Oh, I registered Green Party in Obama's second term.
That's like Jill Stein. Would that be Green Party, right?
Yeah, she's running this year. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
But it
Is
passed.
is environmentalism high on your list of issues?
Yes, but it's not immovable. I'm not immovable on it. So, like I said, I could sacrifice everything of the Green Party except the single issue, if the Republican Party would fulfill that. And after I would just grit my teeth, and of course I would be fighting to try to continue to try to get the Green Party where I want them. I'm not gonna lie. After that.
Being registered in the Green Party, are you able to vote for a Republican or a Democrat?
Depends on what state you're in, and if you're talking about the general or the primary. So because it's all state dependent.
Right. I was thinking more primary, but I do understand what you mean, and I don't know what state you're in, and you don't have to tell me. I was just wondering if you are able in your state to vote for a Republican, Democrat, or any runner.
I am.
Yeah, I'm an independent and have been for about 28 years, and I've been able to vote for anybody here in California. And so I don't know about other parties, except for the Republican, Democrat Party, and Independent.
You should look up the Green. You never heard of them?
That's why I asked. No, I think they're a bunch of domestic terrorists. I think up here in the mountains, man, they put steel spikes in trees that have killed people. They've done some pretty horrifying things. I'm not going to make the allegations that I've heard here in Northern California. I mean, you know what goes on in California, so I'm not going to start talking about it, but the allegations are crazy.
I didn't know about spikes in trees.
Wallace, I didn't know you were an independent. That's interesting.
Yeah, I've been an independent since I was 18, and I could never, I am right-leaning because of liberty, but the Republicans, like my whole life, could never get straight in line with liberty. I'm 45, and so, parental guidance, I was a little kid when that all came out, so that was like the first thing that everyone was hating on Republicans. And so, yeah, I've always been an independent, but I obviously do. And you know what? I voted for Obama in 2008. And I'm super embarrassed about that because Weather Underground and doing all my research afterwards, because nobody vetted him, I'm super embarrassed. And I admit that in front of all you, just so you all know I'm like a right-sided, but I did vote for Obama. So it's crazy.
Are there other people who voted for Obama that are on the stage here? Or no.
I voted for Obama in the first term.
Everything's good. Everything's good. You guys were happy with your vote.
Well, Obamacare was mentioned earlier.
I was disappointed.
And I'm just curious as to what the opposition is to that, because it seems to be popular. Trump made multiple attempts, and the Republican Party writ large, to get rid of it, and it's still here. So obviously it has popular support. So I'm just curious as to what made that a bad thing, considering what it remedied for the people of America.
Because it was not affordable, even though it was called the Affordable Care Act.
Not affordable.
It was not affordable.
I think more importantly, it's not a private sector solution. I think once you start getting this blend of like Medicare for all or government-run healthcare, an overly intrusive government reach into the private sector of healthcare, you run into a lot of the issues that have been encountered in Canada, in the United Kingdom, and other places. So I think right now we kind of have the worst of both worlds. We have a little bit of private sector and a little bit of public sector, and it just screws everything up. I think if we were to go, full private sector, I think full private sector, would have we'd have to find a way to do that, because I don't think that's
but consider what the private sector has done when they have had unfettered run.
Yeah, that's what I'm scared of too.
I really don't think health care is where private sector interests should play run amok? Do you think so, honestly?
If it could be
The problem
regulated.
with this is that you get a well-intentioned program like, say, Social Security, Medicare, et cetera, and they start out as being sold as, well, we're just going to help out a little bit, like we're just going to help those in dire need. And then what happens over the decades, you get this creep, this scope creep, where now you start saying, well, these people really, really need it too, and those people also really, really need it. So then you start getting, above the initial intention. And just like, the founding fathers intended for this government to be as small as possible. They wanted the most amount of freedom, the least amount of government intrusion. But what's happened using this same strategy of getting a program started, or getting an agency started, getting a regulation started, we've now grown to the largest government in the history of the world. So it just brings with it, all of these regulations and complications and restrictions and rationing that we see in other countries.
Is it
a couple
possible?
of issues that I would raise. One, to harken back to the founding fathers, understand that the one thing they didn't have was a time machine, right? And I doubt they could have easily envisioned some of the complications we now face with the, footprint that big business can have, and the, rapacious nature of corporate interest in focusing on money and not people, right? And I don't know. I think, to me, we stand to gain much better to have a healthy nation, right? Rather than have people succumb to illnesses, and that in the long run cost more. I think that's kind of understood, right? And I don't see why, with as much brain power and financial clout that the United States have, that some compromise could not be reached to have a healthy balance there.
I think that's
just the right amount of regulation and stuff, right? And then to maybe, if it is a budgetary issue, to maybe ease back on some of the things that we do spend and waste a lot of money on, like the military-industrial complex. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree with that. But the thing is, we don't know how to ration ourselves when it comes to government growth and expansion and spending. Like I said, once an agency like the EPA or the FDA or the whatever agency gets created, they will say this is our priority, and it may be a legitimate priority. Like the unions, started out with a very legitimate mission. A union started out because they were necessary, and people found the need to organize and do collective bargaining and all that stuff. But over the decades, they have lost influence. Why? They've lost participation because they've basically outgrown their initial charter. A lot of the things that they fought for have now been instantiated or codified into law, such that the need for these unions is no longer necessary. And so if we could find a way to say that an agency can't get bigger than this, or an agency can't create, regulations that interfere in this way. But I mean, that is just so incredibly nuanced and restrictive, it really almost comes down to all or nothing.
Adam Andrzejewski, hold on guys, let me jump in. Adam Andrzejewski created a program called OpenTheBooks.com, Every Dime Online, where businesses, government agencies, schools would agree to have every penny they spend documented online for consumer watchdog groups to watch over. He died in August, and they're not saying how he died, but I was sad to learn this week that he passed. But he has a great speech called The Depth of the Swamp. And it, of course, is not the sole solution to our big government problems, but man, it's an appealing good start. So I encourage people to look into his program, because I think that's one of the keys to the complicated puzzle that we have.
And that's a great idea. It is. Public transparency and oversight, I'm all for it. I would like to offer a little bit of pushback on the union issues. I'll give you the example. I know people in Hollywood, and SAG-AFTRA, I hope I'm saying it right, saw the danger coming with AI potentially threatening jobs and salaries, right? And so if it were not for the union power, Because again, this is the whole point of unions, or you get things like with what, Elon Musk has been laughing about, the power that if you have any gross, they fire you, right? And what power do you have, right? So I think, honestly, I wouldn't be so, willing to dissolve unions because if you want to harken back to when, a single parent in a household could carry the entire household, that was in the heyday of unions, was it not? If I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
When, you could survive on a single salary, right? And you could argue that it is the relentless effort by big business to intimidate and, employees from joining unions and to water down the power of unions, that you lose that bargaining power because when you have the Supreme Court basically saying a company is an individual, right? Or, rulings like that, which clearly cannot be the case. I mean, the financial clout, the opportunities they have, based on the way the American political system is set up to influence lawmakers to their favor, to the detriment of the environment, to the detriment of salaries and, and workers' rights and benefits. I don't see how, not having unions around, because those groups that are protected, and look what just happened even with the dock workers, right, recently. Again, they saw the danger coming with automation, and this is what's protecting jobs, which I assume is of interest to everyone here on stage. Would you not agree?
Yeah, I agree. I'm not saying unions should be dissolved at all. What I'm saying, if I had to find the compromise, and I think this was just adjudicated by the Supreme Court, I want to say Brad might know better than me in the last year or so, that basically they said unions cannot mandate that employees join the union in order to, I think, share in the benefits or the decisions that are made at the corporate level. I forget exactly the case and the particulars, but, if a union is going to survive, it should be by choice. Again, like I was trying to talk to Rev, it should be by persuasion. It should be, hey, here's the case for joining this union as an employee in this organization or in this industry. Here's the case for paying your dues and sharing in, the voice, the message, the rewards, whatever. It should not be mandated. It should not be used as a weapon for, intimidation. So if it can be voluntary, then, more power to them.
Right. A good point. And I'd say marry that with anti-intimidation legislation, because of course that has been the problem, right? When you didn't have the automatic enrollment that existed in the past, then companies take steps, right? And took steps to intimidate employees to have, pre-hiring training, and where they rolled in these videos to actively and aggressively disencourage employees and even go again, sanction them and intimidate them into not signing up for the unions, and thereby achieve the same net result of poor representation for workers' rights, and thereby, slow rises in salaries to counter inflation, etc.
Yeah, I was just saying, again, this is what I was trying to get through to Rev. Anytime I'm interacting, with somebody, and I think this applies to all people at all times, there are two basic ways to interact with people, either force or persuasion. So I can try to persuade you that this idea, this course of action, this behavior, this principle, this value, whatever, is better than that one. And if I can make that argument and get you to join willingly, then that's the fundamental, to me, foundation of capitalism, right? You and I voluntarily exchange value for value because you want what I've produced, or vice versa, right? But when it comes down to the alternative, government mandates, government force, intimidation, coercion, things like that, I just think that's not sustainable. It's not healthy, and it's, I think in almost all cases, it's not preferable.
But you got to look at, not preferable, yes, but you got to ask yourself, is it, what's the word I got? Is it, ultimately, is it something that the people you're trying to convince, can they live with it or can they not, right? So, and I can't get you to see things from my shoes, right? But it doesn't matter really what it was, because I don't want to do that, because then, people go off the rails if you get specific, even if you use it as an example. So I like this. I think it keeps things calm if you speak in general, but you can fill in the blank, put in anything. You got to ask if those people are like, well, it's not enough to move them. You know what I'm saying? You've got to look at it. It's like, because if I've been dealing with this all along, because the Democrats doing that is not something new, right? Would you agree?
I'm not sure.
Right?
I'm not sure I fully understand your.
Well, didn't you say the foundation of capitalism is you want I will give you something that you want in exchange.
Value. Voluntary.
Right, and you're saying the Democrats have not been doing that.
Yeah, I think as Democrats have moved in the past. I don't think JFK was this way. I don't even think necessarily Clinton was this way. But
okay, when did it start?
I think it's been in the past, really in the past 20 years, where Democrats have seen.
Then my life will have to change, right, exponentially, over the last 20 years for me to accept going over to that party. And I got to feel that what I'm giving up my vote for is worth me sacrificing all those other things that I don't necessarily agree on. And what you just mentioned is what I've been living with for 20 years. So what's the difference? You know what I'm saying? If I've been living with it for 20 years, what's the difference now if I'm not getting that single issue?
Well, then, so exactly my point. So that's exactly my point. So if the issue that you're driving towards is not something that is gaining in popularity, winning the hearts and minds through persuasion, by persuasive tactics, then, are you going to say, you have one of two options. You can say, okay, maybe this value or this principle or this issue, I'm on the wrong side of it. Or going the other way, you might say, okay, well, we're going to have to force people to do what I want them to do. Right? So those are your two basic options. Again, your two basic options are force and persuasion. If the issue is, just like abortion. So when Trump got elected in 2016, he came out very deliberately and said, I am going to nominate, if given the opportunity, these people to the Supreme Court. These are their values. You can vet them. You can, research them, whatever. These are the people I'm going to nominate with the intention of pushing abortion down to the states, right? And that's what happened. And he was elected. And you could say that it was to some degree driven by that, by that position that he took. So that's an example of him using persuasion to move the needle on this issue. If there was another issue that has not yet reached that tipping point, then you have people making the case. You have this issue being discussed for years and years and years. If it's not moving the needle such that people are willing to vote for them or enact these, remedies to this issue, then you have that choice. We're either going to say, well, maybe we're on the wrong side of this issue, or we're going to force people to do what I want them to do.
When you say we're going to force people, you mean the people who are holding their votes and saying unless?
Clarify that point. What is the force there?
So what I mean by this is, I'll just use what happened in California recently. So as you guys probably know, California did this study on reparations, and it was a couple years long. They have super majorities in the House and the Senate. They have a Democrat governor. They went through this years-long examination of reparations. The study, went before the Congress at California, and they passed this bill. And or I don't know if they passed it, but no, they didn't pass it because Newsom basically, I don't know exactly the terminology. He killed it. I don't think he vetoed it, but he sent it back for study or something. He rejected it basically. So if that's the issue that these people are trying to fight for, then for whatever reason, I don't fully understand
The legislation,
why
Brian,
California, with super
didn't pass
majorities
it.
in the.
But
why would
we're talking
Democrats
about
with a super majority
abortion.
and a left-leaning Democrat governor not pass this? It seems like
playing in our face. Because they playing their that's what I said. They play in our face.
Okay, but you switched gears though. We were talking about the abortion issue.
No, I brought that up as an example.
Sending it on to the state. No, but I was
No,
curious
I was-
as to what the forced part was with that. Like, what part of that is forced now that it's been sent to the states? What was a force before that has been remedied by having it sent to the states? I was trying to.
No, I'm saying what Trump did was persuasive. He said, if you elect me as president, I will, if given the chance, nominate these justices to the Supreme Court, and they will most likely reevaluate the Roe v. Wade decision, and it may get overturned and then get pushed down to the state. So he was very clear about, he had a specific list that the Heritage Foundation and the Federalist Society, I believe, one or both of those groups helped him develop this list of potential SCOTUS justices, and that's how it unfolded. So to me, that was persuasion. Because he got people to vote for him using that.
Can I just add one thing to what Brian said? I think he's being pretty persuasive now amongst Republicans to basically be good with this compromise for now. There's a lot of pro-life people who actually do want what the Democrats say they think Trump wants. But Trump is being very persuasive and saying, no, we need to win this election. We believe in states' rights. This is the way we're going. If you want to fight for a ban on abortion, do it in your state. We're not doing it at the federal level. That's not a part of the current platform of the Republicans. So he's been persuasive yet again on this issue, in my opinion.
But I find the argument of persuasion interesting in that we know how he was able to achieve the election of so many Supreme Court justices, because in Obama's term, multiple appointments, and I'm not just talking the Supreme
It's just one.
But the judicial, hold on, not just the Supreme Court, but the judicial system across the board, they denied all, because and this is again a flaw in the system. This is unfairness that it was expected that the Democratic Party play by some rules that then were switched when the Republican Party had power and were able to do that. This is not a mystery, right, as to how this was achieved. And the argument was then, does this truly reflect the majority? Right. So because again, the Supreme Court, by the nature of the way appointments are done, right? First, it's a lifetime thing. That I think is a problem. Right.
You're off.
Because it's allowing for correct.
So again, like in this latest term, it was Biden. It was literally the idiots like Aaron Berger and all the other trans men out there that were screaming out in the streets wearing vagina hats were calling for, and it was called the Biden rule. On a lot of federal judges not to nominate, and it was been ongoing. And they did this, and they did their Bork thing, and Democrats have been playing this nefarious thing with judicial appointments for a long time. And the Republicans said, hold on a moment, while you guys keep playing these rules, we're going to use them at a time that is convenient for us. And we're going to appoint legislator or judicial appointments that actually make sense for our party, that actually have judicial appointments that believe more, well, I would say they align more with the originalist or constitutionalist point of view instead of legislating from the bench. And even Ruth Bader Ginsburg said this and all this stuff. Those are federal appointments. Obama didn't give a damn about the federal judicial appointments, and neither did Democrats. They were using their capital clout on Obamacare. They were using their capital clout on a whole bunch of things. But his judicial appointments, if you actually go back and look, he didn't spend any effort in regards to that, only until it came up to the Supreme Court for Merrick Garland, which, thank God, obviously, apparently, blatantly, we, the American people, are so glad he was never nominated to the Supreme Court en masse, because he's horrible as an AG. I can't imagine him as a Supreme Court justice. So when you look at like that one appointment, yes, that's all Democrats have. But it's your fault that Obama didn't fucking put him up. He could have put him up, but yes, some got down. Biden's been filling him up just fine. He's been throwing him through the ringer, and some have gotten rejected. Some can't even cite the fucking Bill of Rights. They can't even. They don't even know which amendment they're talking about when they're addressing the Senate. So, I mean, really, in all fairness, that was Obama's fault. The Republicans weren't blocking Obama on federal seats around the country. They didn't like a lot of them, but they didn't block all of them. And Obama didn't put.
Can
I know
Let
what
me
you
jump in.
Let me because I have a different understanding.
This is your- Can I have the floor for a second? Just to go back to the California thing, that reparations thing was passed by the House and the Senate, and it went to Newsom's desk. The only reason he didn't sign it is that he's facing a $50 billion deficit now after he walked in with a $70 billion surplus, and he just basically couldn't sign it because there was no way to fund it. So that's the reason.
You don't think he knew that from the beginning?
No, that's.
You think it took him 2 years to figure that out?
He could have definitely.
He knew it
He
wasn't
could have
going to
definitely
happen.
created an
but
unfunded mandate.
This man spends his entire career virtual signaling. He passes laws in California on gun control, and then he goes out in a press conference and goes, I know this is probably going to get overturned, but we're going to do it anyway. So this is modus operandi for that guy. And as far as the judicial appointments are going, the judicial appointments that was Harry Reid. Harry Reid went in and said, we're going to remove it from a 2/3 approval in the Senate to a simple majority. And that's when the Republicans said, hey, you don't want to do that because then that's the rules and we're going to play by those rules. He did it anyway. And then what happened was that Obama left 100 federal appointees open in the judicial system because he figured that Hillary was going to win and she would fill them. And when it was a big surprise and Trump won, all of a sudden he had 100 federal appointments to the judicial court that he could fill with the 51% simple majority to get Senate approval. And that's what happened.
Yep, 100% yes. And, I think it's important also people understand that, Democrats make these rules. Not a single one of them has had the balls to call out Harry Reid for what he did. Instead, they blame Democrats. Look at this. Look at what they're doing. They're subverting the rules using a 61-vote majority. Hey, the current presidential candidate, Kamala Harris, is saying the fact that you can put someone in by a 61-vote majority just shows you how tyrannical, Republicans are. Her exact words as a U.S. senator. And not going back and saying, hey, Harry Reid, what'd you do? Or even picking up the phone and chewing his ass out for a little bit on it. No, they just flip the switch. And the problem is that the media and others go along with it. They don't say, that's, let's correct your record. It's not, Republicans that did it. It's Harry Reid, who's part of your party. Instead, they just go along with it and push it forward. So the average American doesn't know that, Thank you for sharing.
So, and the ramification of that is that he filled a lot of those seats. They made it a priority to get those judicial appointments. So now you have the Ninth Circuit, which is the Western United States, Hawaii, California, Oregon, all of us on the West Coast. The Ninth Circuit is notoriously very left. It is the most overturned circuit by the Supreme Court. But where we're at now, we're about 45% people that are more conservative on that court. So now when we get a draw for a hearing, we actually have a good chance, especially with Second Amendment stuff, that we might actually have 2 pro 2A judges that sit on a panel. So this is, you reap what you sow, and Harry Reid cast the die, and now everybody has to live with that.
And I'm curious about that Second Amendment issue, if you guys don't mind. It is my understanding that Democrats don't want to get rid of all guns, quote unquote, or get rid of the Second Amendment, but to have some common sense control given all the murder that has been occurring across the country, the mass murder with, semi-automatic rifles. So is it not agreed that there should be some common sense control?
Richard, can you give the limits of those common sense controls? Define.
I think you're in the Matrix, Kingdom.
Yeah,
go ahead, man.
I've been living in the San Francisco Bay Area for about 35 years. And from what I can tell, the California Democratic Party basically is the national party. And all through my life, I'm 57 years old. During the years when I was younger, I was out of college, I was pretty liberal. It dawned on me that, in fact, I even had friends, especially friends who were involved in politics, I
I would say things like, well, border security is important to me, and the Democrats say they're for it, but most of the Democrats I know are for open border. So which is it? My friends would basically say, well, we're lying now because the voters of the U.S. essentially are centrist voters, and so we're saying what we need to say to get elected. And when it comes to gun issues, I think most Republicans think we already have more than common sense regulation on guns. The reason for the tragic shootings that make the headlines in this country are usually not gun laws. They're usually some other reason that these things are happening. So we just don't believe Democrats when they say that they're just for common sense. We actually believe they want to take away guns. We don't believe that they're for border security. We believe that they're for open borders. And you can just keep going down the line with those, with the issues that Kamala Harris is trying to move to the center on right now. And I can assure you, as a resident of Oakland, this version of Kamala Harris is kind of a new version of Kamala Harris. And I've been in the Bay Area. I was in San Francisco when she was DA there. This is a new Kamala.
One mother of the child.
Yeah, on the Second Amendment in California, all across the country, we've been allowing these laws to get passed, and what happens is that's never the end. It starts to creep. So we get to a point where some of the states get out there and they actually sell the idea and they get it passed in the legislature, like, we should have a 10-round limit in the magazine. Okay, so you do that. Some of the states have to abide by that now. Some states don't have any restrictions at all. But then a couple of years goes by and they're saying, well, why do you need 10? Let's make it 7. And then all of a sudden they're talking about 3. And then you got politicians that are going on TV and say, if you need more than one bullet, how good a shot are you? And it's just like, well, it's incrementally make it more and more and more. We get a quote unquote assault weapons ban or legislation in California. And they're saying, well, if it has these characteristics, and most of these characteristics are plastic parts that have nothing to do with the functioning of the firearm itself. Well, we're saying we don't want a flash hider. Well, what does a flash hider do? Flash hider's on the end of the muzzle of a rifle, and if you shoot it at night, it just prevents you from becoming blind by the light. Has nothing to do with the efficiency of the firearm itself and its basic operation. We don't like a fore-end grip, which is a handle on the front underneath the barrel that can help you stabilize the gun. We don't like a collapsible stock, which is only a mechanism so that you can fit the gun properly to your shoulder, because everybody has different range of length between their arms and their shoulders. And then they start coming back with, well, now we're going to add this, and now we're going to add that. And so as the Second Amendment community is just saying, well, we got to stop all of this, because all they do is creep. And pretty soon everything gets more restrictive. And the only thing you have to talk about when we're talking about that is that California's implemented a safe gun hand roster. And that safe gun hand roster was developed specifically so they could start to whittle down the amount of firearms or the types of firearms that you could buy in California. This has been in place for a long time, and they started adding things to that law. So pretty soon you had 3 things that you had to have in a handgun for the California Department of Justice to certify that it was a quote-unquote safe handgun. And it was a magazine disconnect, so if the magazine's out of the gun, it can't fire even the rounds in it, a chamber indicator, and drop safeties. And drop safeties are supposedly an extra mechanism, so if you drop a gun, it doesn't accidentally go off. So then they come back 7, 8, 10 years later, and they said, well, we're going to add microprinting. And microprinting is a concept. It's not a functional thing. And the idea is that you're actually going to have a very small engraving on the head of the firing pin, and any cartridge that's shot through a firearm, it's going to have a unique identifier number on it, so you can trace it back to the firearm that it was shot from. All kinds of problems with this. First of all, it's impractical. It doesn't work in real life. And they're just like, creep.
Yo,
so
they're not listening to you, right? Because you're actually making sense. These people in the chat are calling Trump a rapist,
I'm listening.
saying that he raped my brain cells. Like, come on, they don't care about logic. They just want to hate Donald Trump.
Why'd you interrupt him? Let Yosh finish it.
It's insane because Donald Trump was loved by black rappers all over, and now he's racist. I
like Aaron.
Okay, right, Josh, a question if you don't mind.
Yeah, so let me finish
sorry.
the one thought. So the reason you see the fervency on the Second Amendment, the pro-Second Amendment people is they've watched this creep. This has been going on for 25 years or more. It's nothing to do with Trump. It's just the way that it's been progressing. And so now the Second Amendment community is saying, no, we're going to challenge these laws. We're going to take them through the court system, and we're going to make sure that we kind of, what we can, we get it all into the Supreme Court. And we were successful in 2008 with Heller. We were very successful in 2021 with the Brewer decision. And the Supreme Court has come in. They've said you have the right to own and keep a firearm in your home, and now you have the right to lawfully use a firearm for your own protection outside the home. And we just have a lot of people still in place in the federal court system that are playing around with that. They're just out and out ignoring it, and they're coming in and making rulings that eventually are going to have to go back up to the Supreme Court, so we'll have to clarify it, because they have said what the Second Amendment means. They couldn't be fined in multiple cases. It's been about 20, and since 2008, that was a major decision. So these are all defined, but there are people with agendas that are playing against it that are on the court system.
I think generally speaking, if you listen to the way the tactics have been used over the past several decades, the people who don't like America, don't like us because we're good, have switched. So they used to say, like the extremists, the religious fundamentalists, death to America, et cetera, but they realize that is easy to just oppose. That makes people who are patriotically American just being American. So they started changing their tactics, and they switched to this practice of saying, well, we're Americans for environmental justice, and they don't give a shit. These people don't give a shit about America. They don't give a shit about justice, and most of them don't give a shit about the environment. They use it as a tactic, whether it's the Second Amendment or climate change or economic inequality, whatever. They use it as a tactic to increase government and force compliance, and that's what's happening. And when people on the right push back against these seemingly culture war issues or small issues like bump stocks or folding stocks or suppressors or things like that, because they realize that if you give these wackos an inch, they'll take a mile.
Josh, I won't relate to this, but I will ask. I'm speaking specifically towards assault rifles, because that's often the case what causes the highest number of casualties in these school shootings, right? And even the death of President Trump himself. And I must have missed the legislation or anything proposed by the Republican Party as to how to rein in or reduce the use of these devices as weapons, right? In mass murder. I've heard the Democrats speak to solutions or remedies. What are the Republicans?
First, you have to get your facts right. It's not long rifles, long guns that you're collecting. It's actually handguns that they use. Those are most of the ball. But that would be the first thing is actually understanding what the problem is. But
Yeah, most of the definitions of an